Good afternoon, Facebook family and friends. How are you today? This is Moss from Investor Partner Group. Today, we are going to talk about this question that keeps getting asked to me is how do you know that the growth will come in the areas that you pick? Now, the question is not so much about if the growth is going to come, but more importantly, when the growth is going to come, okay? Because understand this, that the land is a scarce resource. So ultimately, as the demand goes up, the prices of it would naturally go up, okay? It's important to understand that if you are in the long-term game of buying property, on average the property market would deliver double-digit growth over 10 to 15 years. Okay, you would expect that your property prices double over 15-year sort of horizon. Okay, but I always tend to say this, that if you are really in the long-term game and this is what you are thinking about, okay, I'm going to retire and there would be a saving that would come back to me in relation to property investing, then look at Graves. Okay, go buy Graves, because Graves have gone up from 1650 in 2009 to 9,800 in 2021. That's 400% growth. Okay, now this is a funny sort of example, but let me give you a truest sort of example as well. Let's pick up a suburb in Melbourne, which is Clyde, and those who live in Victoria, Melbourne would understand this. The suburb has given tremendous growth over the last 2 to 3 years. You're looking at about 25 to 30% growth over 3 years. Now, those who have bought in the suburb 3 years ago have seen up to 30% growth. Okay, those who have bought in Clyde 5 years ago and 7 years ago, they have seen similar amount of growth. Okay, now the reason being that the growth does not happen in linear fashion. Okay, it happens in small chunks and spurs, which basically means that when picking up a growth suburb, it's not just so much about picking the right suburb, but also the timing of picking the suburb. Okay, you need to pick the suburb as close to the growth cycle as possible, and I'll explain to you what does that really mean. Well, it comes down to really the economics of property investing. You're looking at the supply side and the demand side, and where the demand is significantly higher than the supply, and there is no supply coming in the next 1 to 2 years, that the demand ultimately is going to push the prices up. Now let's talk about the demand side a bit more. What indicators are we talking about when you're talking about demand side? Okay, so some of the things that you would hear people talk about is yield and vacancy rates, and in isolation. Well, it's not just those. What you need to really look at is change in the value of property, change in the volume of sales or number of listings, change in days of market, online search interest, auction clearance rate, renters proportion, again, yield, vacancy rates, immigration, jobs, infrastructure, people or population. All of these add to the demand side of indicators, and this is what we are looking at when we are really truly judging what is the demand of a particular suburb is. When you talk from a supply side indicators perspective, you're looking at stock and market. Again, this is a change in stock and market, or stock on market, again, from a perspective of what the stock was 12 months ago versus 6 months ago versus right now. Development approvals, how they are changing over the 36 months horizon, and the available developable land in the area. Now, it is key to understand all of these things in order to make sure that you are truly picking the right growth suburb. So the key takeaways from this, it's not so much about just picking the right suburb, but it's also picking about the timing of picking that right suburb. When you're talking about investing in property market, it's not so much about the really long-term investing. It's about catching that growth and moving on to the properties where you can use that equity to pick more growth suburbs to catch further equity. I hope this session makes sense to you. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop down and put it in there, or come back and have a conversation with me. Happy to help you. Thank you very much for listening to me again today. Lovely to meet you all, and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.